Nos mostró también cómo hoy en día hay puertos grandes, pero también hay un crecimiento de operadores portuarios en el mundo. No solamente puertos solos, sino puertos operados por redes portuarias o redes de operadores. Nos visualizó cómo el crecimiento de la costa este era muy importante, pero ahora el crecimiento en la costa oeste, todo el área Pacífico, es una parte importante sobre el manejo de esa gestión. Nos destacó que el buen negocio de crecer utilizando grandes buques o de crecer utilizando rutas sería una parte importante para mirar los negocios con otra visión. Y cuando nos plantea la necesidad de que los buques grandes y que tienen una alta demanda sensiblemente de algunos negocios, nos hace la pregunta, ¿están los puertos preparados para asistir a ese cambio? ¿La infraestructura está adecuada? ¿Qué pasa en las redes de almacenamiento, en los hilos, en el manejo, en los volúmenes de carga? Y nos habló también de cómo el crecimiento exponencial que se está dando con las invenciones como 3D nos va a hacer unos cambios no solamente en la infraestructura, sino sociales, y seguramente vamos a volver a la parte de atrás y es a mirar el carruaje y el caballo. Yo creo que en este breve resumen podemos ver cómo se pasó de un origen a un destino de crecimiento y esa evolución del transporte marítimo. Ahora creo que tenemos una sesión de preguntas. Si alguien quiere hacer las preguntas a John Paul. John Paul, muchas gracias por su exposición, me parece que nos deja muchas enseñanzas. Y si tienen preguntas, por favor, procedemos a recibir las preguntas. Hay un micrófono que les alcanza para aquel que tenga algunas preguntas para resolverlas. No creo que nos hayamos quedado en el caballo y en el… ¿cierto? Bueno, si no tienen alguna pregunta…
De aquel lado.
Sí, Mr. Hazors from the Netherlands. Mr. Hofstrand, no, Mr. Rodriguez, I'm sorry. You have mentioned quite some information about the problem that someone is getting profit from in the chain and someone else is suffering from it. What do you, that's a problem. I will call it also in my presentation, the gain sharing is a very important issue to address. That those profits are not only in the pockets of one person or one company, but you start dividing that profits over the supply chain. Can you comment on that? And do you have ideas how we could facilitate that process?
You're talking about who's going to bear the costs for that?
Yeah, who's bearing the cost and who gets the profits? Because
as usual, the public sector is going to pay. In the United States, it's the federal government that pays for the infrastructure, the dredging. It's going to be port authorities that are going to borrow public money to pay for it. And the open expectation is that these infrastructure investment, again, going to come up with economic benefits. That's the expectation. And in the past, it has worked well. It was okay. You could accept all of this, no problem, because you got the volume, you got the development of your trade, you got development of your warehousing, your port-centric logistic. Everything was running well with this. And that's my problem at this point. Are we going to see this mechanism play itself again in the future with those bigger and bigger ships coming into the region or not? And because if those ships come with bigger volumes but not more additional trade, now you have a problem. And again, I don't have an answer. to that. Otherwise, I would be bullshitting you. That's one of my favorite words, actually. There's a lot of it taking place right now. I don't have an answer to this. But again, it questions the cost-sharing relationship. I mean, the question is very relevant into that point. Because in the past, you didn't have that problem. So at a bigger ship, expand your capacity, I'm going to give you twice the amount. In 2 to 5 years, you're going to get twice the traffic. Everybody pays itself up. Now, I'm not sure.
Ok, muchas gracias. ¿Alguna otra pregunta? Por favor.
Usted mencionaba en su presentación que la infraestructura no es lo más importante en los puertos y en los mayores puertos, y ponía Panamá dentro de su ejemplo. Una de las mayores críticas que ha recibido Colombia es su infraestructura portuaria, es decir, que no funciona bien el comercio porque no se ha hecho la suficiente infraestructura. En relación a lo que usted dijo, ¿cuál sería entonces, si no es la infraestructura, y entonces qué es lo que a veces falla en Colombia?
Okay, there's been a misconception, a misrepresentation here. We have to be careful. I was talking about, my example was talking about, I would say, advanced markets, North America, Europe, Asia, in that case, where under such circumstances with those bigger ships, the infrastructure angle is a little bit questionable. Of course, when you talk about a growing economy, such as Colombia, it's not true. Infrastructure is the most important thing in that case. Because I'm talking about here where you are established, you are the US West Coast, you are the US East Coast, you are Europe. How beneficial is this for you to do that in the current context? For Colombia, it's different, obviously, because Colombia, again, is still in that phase of building up this infrastructure. Actually, it's a great opportunity. You can upgrade your infrastructure to the current standards. You don't have to retrofit at this point in time. So again, I'm sorry about this misconception that for Colombia, infrastructure, number one.
Ok, muchas gracias. Otra pregunta. Gracias. Quisiera, por favor, se presentan para identificarlos. ¿Quién hace la pregunta, por favor?
Mr. Rodriguez, good morning. Felipe Quintana from Merck. I would like to ask you, I wonder what will be your vision about the future of the shipping industry. As you mentioned before, shipping industry is suffering because our excess of capacity and the big vessels that we had. I would like to ask you, what do you think will be the future in the coming years?
You won't like my answer. Okay, in my opinion, something is going to have to give. Because you know that conferences are a sign of desperation. That's how I see them. You are forced to pool your resources and or rationalize. I expect 1 or 2 major bankruptcies. I don't know who. But some capacity has to be removed from the market in the coming years. Or if respective government decides to subsidize some of their shipping companies. This is what happened with the financial crisis, okay? I think with the next crisis, where every state is broke, we look at what's happening in Europe. We're entering a new recession at this point in time. I think this time, I suspect, that's my expectation, some form of bankruptcy. Who, I don't know. I don't know, because I don't know how what is the balance sheet. I cannot talk about, I can make any statement about Maersk or whoever. I don't know. But something has to give. This is unsustainable at this point in time. The system has to collapse in some way.
Ok, muchas gracias. Yo quiero hacer un comentario adicional a lo que dice. En efecto, en el sector transporte está pasando lo mismo. Uno mira en el sector transporte por carretera y ya se hablan de sobre ofertas y se abran elementos que están afectando la competitividad. Alguien tiene que ceder porque la optimización hace que desaparezcan los ineficientes y queden los eficientes. Y cuando ya el mercado se satura, no interesa ya ni el eficiente ni el eficiente y no eficiente, porque el mercado genera muchos cambios. ¿Alguna pregunta más? Bueno, si no hay preguntas, yo quiero agradecer a John Paul. Me parece que su exposición es muy interesante, nos pone a una visión bastante analítica sobre cómo pensar estos desarrollos. Gracias, Paul.